Many ships swallowed up by the sea waves remain untraceable for the rest of history. Therefore, those ancient shipwrecks that one day, contrary to expectations, are still discovered at the bottom of the ocean. The discoveries of such ships means that experts can draw meaningful conclusions about the way of life, trade relations, and cultural habits of the people from that time, from the ship's design in question, the remains of the cargo, and the location of the discovered site. So, while many of the lost ships help to shed some light on the historical darkness, other wrecks and their mysterious circumstances only raise more questions. Here are some mysterious shipwrecks that have awed archaeologists. Mysterious shipwreck in Latvia. After the vestiges of a 12-meter long ship were recently discovered on a beach in Latvia, one huge question quickly surfaced in the experts' minds. Where did this mysterious wreckage come from? Could they be the remains of a lost British Royal Navy warship? Or did the watercraft possibly serve the purpose of a tropical long-distance trade ship? Although the exact identity of the ship was not identified yet at that time, some of the materials recovered provide at least solid clues as to the origin of the wreck. In fact, the copper nails used on the ship suggest that the ship was of the Royal Navy ranks and was made in the 19th century. In detail, the Latvian experts that were commissioned to examine the wreckage estimated that the ship was between 150 and 200 years old. In addition to the nails mentioned, the oak planks also bore a semblance to those warships and long-distance warships built by the British Navy in the corresponding period. In addition, it can be assumed that the ship was once covered with a protective coat of copper plates. Due to this reinforced protection, the ship could have performed its service in the North and Baltic Seas and the distant tropical sea regions. It is believed that the discovered ship went down off the coast of Latvia when it wanted to transport a load of new ship masts to its British homeland. At that time, the Royal Navy needed over 200,000 loads of oak wood a year for the constant expansion of the Navy, with parts of the needed materials being imported from the Baltic states. San Jose. The history of San Jose reveals how valuable the salvage of an ancient shipwreck can be in the truest sense of the word. An important portion of the Silver Fleet, the Spanish galleon, constantly transported the most valuable mineral resources from South America to Spain in the early 18th century. One look at the precious goods with which the galleon was loaded within Panama on January 5, 1708, reveals what the ship's cargo looked like in detail: 344 tons of gold and silver and 116 boxes full of emerald made San Jose become a floating treasure chest. However, as fate would have it, on June 8, 1708, the pride of the Spanish Silver Fleet moved towards its own doom. About 30 kilometers from the port of Cartagena on the Caribbean coast of Colombia, the galleon, along with other representatives of the Silver Fleet, encountered 4 British warships. Since Spain and Great Britain had been at war for several years by then, it wasn't long before the cannons of both parties shook the sea. The battle, which went down in history as the Battle of Baru, was said to have lasted 10 hours. During the gunfire showdown, the San Jose caught fire, and the fire spread to the powder chamber, causing a huge explosion within the ship that caused it to sink. 578 sailors had fallen into their watery graves, with only 11 people saved later. The wreck of the galleon remained missing for many centuries until the year 2015. However, had managed to discover the remains of San Jose, the value of the wreck had been estimated to be up to 15 billion euros. However, there is a hot debate on who is actually entitled to the sunken treasures. According to UNESCO convention, the goods on the seabed should be assigned to the country of origin, which happens to be Spain. The problem is that Colombia never signed the corresponding agreement. Shipwreck at Ground Zero. The events of September 11, 2001 shook the world due to the various mysterious individuals. 2 passenger planes were finally steered into the World Trade Center. As is well known, the symbolic Twin Towers were to collapse as part of the fateful event, leaving a field of chaos, debris, and deep dismay. After the global shock had subsided a little, and American authorities began rebuilding the site of the disaster, which was dubbed Ground Zero, workers had stumbled upon a strange object they had never expected to be there: an old shipwreck. In the years that followed, no one could explain how the wooden ship skeleton got to the former location of the Twin Towers of all places. Nevertheless, in the subsequent days, the experts narrowed down the ship's age by analyzing the kind of wood used. This analysis revealed that the ship was built in the early 1770s. However, the previous owner and how it ended up in its odd location remains a mystery to this day. After it had sunk, It may have unknowingly become part of the infilled landmasses on which Lower Manhattan was later built. On the other hand, some experts suspect that the wreckage was intentionally used to fill the artificial foundation. Mary Rose. Although a greater part of the Mary Rose was salvaged in 1982, nobody knows what ultimately led to the sinking of the Grand English warship. However, what is certain is that the four-masted, 40-meter longship equipped with 30 cannons was launched in 1511, and it sank in the tributary of the English Channel in 1545 during a naval battle against the French. Numerous theories have been thought up regarding the possible causes of the sinking. One assumption is based on the fact that the Mary Rose had become listless due to the insufficient stability that caused it to seem dangerous in the open waters. It is also possible that the list of the ship was further increased by an incorrect turning maneuver, so the battleship took on more and more water and finally sank. But the weight of the heavy cannons and the crew of up to 500 men could have pressed the Mary Rose dangerously close to the waterline. Alternatively, a French cannon hit could have sealed the end of the warship. But, in the absence of solid evidence, one can only speculate the actual cause of the sinking. All that is known is that the ship sank a bit unnaturally quickly. However, the approximately 19,000 items retrieved from the shipwreck painted a more revealing picture. In addition to hundreds of longbows, examining the ship's doctor's cabin gave us an authentic insight into everyday life on board. Numerous contemporary medical instruments were recovered, including a copper syringe used to treat wound inflammation, and a special bottle for feeding patients. The ship's doctor also acted as a barber, and there were also combs and shaving bowls in his cabin. Patriot. Any historian who studies the life story of Aaron Burr will immediately realize that the third Vice President of the United States is best known for the assassination of his longtime political rival, Alexander Hamilton. Although the feud between the two men, which finally ended in a deadly duel, is undoubtedly extremely gripping, the statesman's life was nevertheless accompanied by another no less disturbing episode: the disappearance of his daughter, Theodosia. She had disappeared with a schooner named Patriot and the rest of the ship's crew, leaving no trace behind. Originally, Theodosia had booked a place on the ship to visit her father in New York. According to official reports, the Patriot was last sighted on January 2, 1813. Exciting legends quickly rose about the cause of the sinking and the ship's whereabouts. Some people believed that the ship simply fell victim to a violent storm, while others were convinced that the Patriot had been captured by pirates, with the pirates killing or capturing everyone on board. A story that happened in 1869 is particularly noteworthy. At the time, a painting of a wealthy young woman who looked confusingly identical to Theodosia Burr was discovered in a house in North Carolina. When asked where the portrait came from, the owner admitted that her husband had found the picture on board an abandoned ship that had washed ashore at Nag's Head. It's rumored that Theodosia Burr took a self-portrait during the crossing, which she wanted to give her father. The mysterious painting is now in the possession of Yale University. Some of the most mysterious shipwrecks in history have awed archaeologists and researchers for a long time. While some of those ships went down in an intense gunfire showdown, others had mysteriously disappeared without anyone knowing the cause.